All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and thanks so much for joining us. If you're taking a look at the title, you know that we have a terrific guest on tap for you guys. If you remember last week, we had a Farpoint happening, in kind, the 2023 edition. However, due to changes that needed to be, things that needed to be adjusted. We have rescheduled our conversation to today with our special guests. And just to give you a quick rundown of said guests, they do not need any introduction, but um, just to give you a brief rundown, they studied television at Montgomery College in Rockville, Maryland, and film at the University of Central Florida in 1994. It was there at UCF that our guests met their Hacks and Film partners, and in 1998 he co-wrote and co-directed the Blair Witch Project. However, since that time, he's gone on to do, far more things, not only on the big screen but also on a small screen with shows such as Supernatural, which we will get into, and which our reason being that I wanted to, have our guest here on Farpoint is he has also delved in the world of Star Trek. Yes, that is right. So it is my pleasure to welcome back good friend of the show, Eduardo Sanchez. Let me bring him on now. Ed, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing, brother? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, just to start us off, just checking in, so to speak, how are you doing? We are streaming here live, but you are halfway across the world. We could, technically say in the future, so to speak, over in Budapest, I understand, yes?
Yeah. I'm in Budapest doing an episode of FBI International, and it's my first time here, and it's been fun. I got one more day, and then I'm heading home on Tuesday, but it's been a good time here. The jet lag killed me for the first week, but good crew and good cast, and we're putting out a good episode, I think.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it's always great to hear. Well, with that being said, what I wanted to, touch on first. I know last time we spoke, we were talking about like the ending, I believe, of Supernatural and the involvement there. But I wanted to get into, just in general, I feel like there's enough distance now of where things stand with the hiatus that was happening, in the film industry, across entertainment, whether it's with film, with TV, what have you, and just kind of getting a sense, for those who may not be, privy to it or aware, like how the state of the industry has been thus far. Now that there's a bit more distance separated between, that time that we're in now versus that uncertainty that we had, during that time of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, if I think people are trying to get back to normal as much as possible. I mean, the film business was, pretty directly impacted by it. I mean, because we were very close. We, worked together very closely on sets, and if one of the principal director or one of the actors gets sick, that it halts production. So you can't really. They're not. Actors aren't easily replaceable like that. You so. When I first started coming back, I mean, first of all, we were, I was not working for about 9 months, and then came back, and it was a very kind of testing 3 times a week, and masks on set, and even face shields on set when you were around the actors, and basically just trying to cocoon the actors, and so it's been like that for the last couple of years, I guess, and now it's beginning to slowly. Ramp down. Like this last production, we weren't, we didn't have to have masks on set. We're down to testing once a week, and hopefully that continues. But I mean, I think it's going to be an issue, from now on. I don't know if they're ever going to stop testing for COVID, because I feel like there's again, like if it's one of these things that where like you have to kind of protect the actors and the main people in the show, and any kind of delay kind of it derails things. So I'm not sure what they're going to do eventually, but because I think COVID is still around. I mean, my wife just got it, and so it's still affecting people. So I'm not sure what the next step in, but at least we've loosened up things up, and now at least we don't have to be all masked up the entire time on set.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you must be psychic, because that's actually what I wanted to get into is the nature of the day-to-day things that happen on set, on sets that you've been a part of the frequency. I know with other folks that I know that are also in the industry, they had been talking about how frequent it was, where it was every single day. And then also the other strategies that were used of, isolating, I guess you could say, the entire production in a certain location to kind of, ensure that safety too.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, good, interesting to hear that, that things have, progressed forward, and it isn't while there's still a need to do it. Of course, there isn't a need to have it happen as frequently as it used to. So before we hop into Trek, I wanted to talk a little further with where you currently are now. I know you briefly talked about it at the top of the production that you're working on now. So are you able to share a little bit more, or is it still kind of hush hush of what you can?
No, I mean I'm doing. No, I mean I don't think it's anything secretive. I'm doing like the 17th or the 16th episode of FBI International, so it's already airing. The show's already airing, so it'll be on in a couple of months, I guess, month and a half maybe. But no, it's a great show. It's I again, like I said earlier, I'd never been to Budapest, and it was kind of challenging. I haven't worked overseas, probably, other than Canada, I haven't worked overseas since I did Seventh Moon in Hong Kong back in 2007 or so.
Okay.
So it takes a little getting used to like the crew talking a language that you don't understand, but there's enough.
Sure.
There's enough English speakers to kind of communicate. Sometimes it gets a little frustrating, but everybody's really cool here, and the city is wonderful. There's lots to do, lots to see. I mean, just basically just walk around and sightsee is mostly what I do. It's just an amazing place, amazing architecture. And I was really not surprised because, I mean, everywhere I go, the crews are pretty solid, but this crew is pretty solid, and they're, it seems like they're making a good show and everybody cares about it. And, I hope they ask me back for, season 3, if there is a season 3, because it'd be cool to come back.
Awesome. And, speaking of which, when it comes to being a part of, any production and having that luxury of being able to travel, to set, wherever it may be it film or television, could you, shed a little light on that? Because I always find that interesting of finding that balance of, yes, you're there to work, but, every once in a while, you have the opportunity based on whatever production you're doing, in your case, Budapest, in other cases, it might be, Hawaii or some other, ridiculous location that, perhaps, in your wildest dreams, you never anticipated that you would be, there to, work.
Yeah.
Finding that balance of leisure versus, the commitments that you have.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the production, but usually, you work weekdays and you have the weekends off. When you're prepping, like, I come in and they're supposed to give you as many days prepping as they do shooting. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but, so you get, between 7, 8, or 9 days of prep. uh, 10 days sometimes. And then you start shooting, and during prep, I mean, the hours are pretty normal. I mean, they're not like crazy late or, super early. Just a lot of, location scouting, a lot of meetings, just answering a lot of questions, just making sure everything is lined up for the production. But then once so basically on the weekends, it's the easiest time. You have a lot of leisure time. At least for me, I work on the shot sheets a little bit, but there's not really a crazy amount of homework over the first couple of weekends. So yeah, you do get to go out and hang out, and if some, I work in Vancouver a lot, so I have some friends there, so I usually hook up with a few people, and in a city that you don't know anybody, you can go out and explore, walk around. I usually just go to the movie theaters by myself, to the movies, but I mean that's kind of my thing.
Okay.
I go to movies by myself when I'm away, and mostly stuff that my wife doesn't want to see anyway, because I still love going to the movies, but it depends. But then once you start shooting, it becomes a little tougher because sometimes you're shooting till usually till 3, 4 in the morning on Saturday morning. Even if it's not a late shoot, you're probably wrapping after midnight, 1 a.m. on Friday night, Saturday morning. So, and you haven't had much sleep during the week, it's mostly you do early calls. So you kind of catch up on your rest on Saturday, and then on Sunday you do what, there's a little leisure time, but, you'd have to do laundry, and you have to kind of do all the stuff that you neglected during the week. And then, of course, trying to communicating with my family and staying in touch there. So it's tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, obviously I'm blessed and I'm, happy about the work, but the traveling is definitely like the least fun, part of it. I mean, there are rewards like being here in Budapest, but also it's like, you're alone here. Luckily I knew somebody from the production that works on the production that actually knew before from Orlando. So we hung out a lot, but otherwise, you're just kind of by yourself. And you have to kind of find time to fill that time. But, I can't complain too much, even though I do. But yeah, the travel is, definitely there's some fun moments, but also it's mostly just, traveling, which is, when you do it a lot, it's a pain in the ass.
Understood. Yeah. And I guess, additionally, to jump off of that, I know you had just mentioned, just now of, typically, you're afforded that time to, be able to prepare, what's going to happen, on those days that you're shooting. Is that, and if you don't want to share this, I get it, or if you're open to doing so, like a lot of times, would you say that is like more so incorporated in, what is agreed upon, per show that you are, involved in, or is that pretty, standard across the board in terms of, what you're allotted in terms of, giving you what you need in order to be able to, maximize the success of a given shoot?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it depends on the show, really. I mean, they you're well taken care of, like, I mean, obviously sometimes there's shows that are much more economical, lower budget than others.
Sure.
And you kind of have to, but usually the style of the show lends itself to a low budget kind of feel, or a low budget kind of like schedule, like a quicker shooting schedule. But it just depends. But no, I mean, look, usually by the time at the end of prep, I'm like, all right, enough prep, I'm ready to shoot. Like they definitely most of the time give you enough time. There's very few times that I can't even remember if I've ever been rushed into, like where I haven't felt prepared for, my first day of shooting. I mean, there are things sometimes that even going into shooting, everybody's still trying to figure out some details, like a big stunt, or, sometimes the locations kind of get dropped, right before you start shooting, and you have to kind of scramble to find something new. Sometimes there's art directing challenges. But really the biggest challenge usually is like just trying to find the proper locations to make the story work. Especially like kind of action-y beats, because, you know, a lot of times the writers will write something and it's like, well, we can't find this kind of, you know, situation in a location. So, but, you know, all the writers are always very cool about changing things. And you know, and they know that, you know, we're on the ground here, so we kind of have to make sometimes some creative calls. But it's basically just, you know, sculpting the script to make it as palatable as possible, you know, to the production schedule. But, you know, and the ADs are always top notch. I mean, you know, at this level, it's like everybody's a professional. And the only time I did a job in Puerto Rico last year, Fantasy Island, and I had, you know, I'd never been to the island, and that was a great little experience, just traveling. And my family came to visit, and my friends came to visit. We stayed in a resort basically for the whole shoot, and it was a cool show. But the thing is that the work base, the crew base in Puerto Rico is very thin, and there was 2 shows going on. So we had to share the stunt coordinator, we had to share the special effects person, was going back and forth to 2 jobs, you know, between the 2 jobs. Sometimes,
Oh, wow.
you know, you'd have to wait for things.
Gotcha.
But you know, other than that, I mean, you know, everybody's, like I said, everybody's at a certain level at this, you know, making these shows that, you know, there's no, everybody's a professional and everybody knows their job, and you know, and everybody really, you know, for the most part wants to do a good job. You know, they want to do, you know, get the best they can performance on screen, whether it's, you know, cast or special effects or art design. Like, they all want to see the best on film. So, you know, there's always that good energy usually.
Gotcha. And I have to ask before we hop into Trek, just in thinking of the stretches of time that you have in a given place, and you know, just as you were saying, in working on the current production that you're on, you know, sometimes you were saying that the, you know, language barrier, you know, sometimes sparks up as a challenge sometimes. Have there been any interesting, if you're, you know, thinking back, not just with this production, but maybe even other ones, where because you're in certain places for, you know, a stretch of time, and you probably should in all essence say, you know, you're essentially living there if you're there for the, you know, a couple of weeks, or if you're, you know, there for an extended period of time, where there have been things that even perhaps you've taken for granted, where you're like, oh, okay, this is a, you know, a thing where, like, I didn't anticipate that this would be, you know, something that I would have to, you know, tackle, you know, against, or do, you know, in my every day to day, of something that, you know, maybe, you know, back home that I'm not, that I kind of take for granted, that I, you know, just do and don't really think of.
I mean, it's, you know, it's all the time, because even if you're working, you know, even I'm working in LA, it's like I don't live in LA, you know, so I basically, there's some things that I have at my house, or you know, part of my life that, you know, I can't access when I'm on the road. You know what I'm saying? So there's always like little inconveniences. You know, sometimes like here, and in Hong Kong also, it's just the food, like just figuring out what you're going to eat. And, you know, luckily both places have great food, and so it was pretty easy. But, you know, sometimes it's production based. Like when I was shooting Seventh Moon in Hong Kong, they have a more kind of open system of filmmaking there, where like the jobs kind of blend into each other. So sometimes you know, the art department blends into the stunt department, and the car, you know, just everybody,
yeah, people
kind of
wear
works
multiple hats, which actually plays into, you know, the indie world very much.
It's
you know,
it's very
multiple
much
hats.
Yes, it's very much more like an indie film. And you know, and we were doing an indie film, but still, it was like that's just the way that the crews there work. So you know, sometimes there's confusion. Sometimes things, you know, fall between the cracks, because where in the United States, one department would take care of something. In Hong Kong, there's not as as strict a policy or as clear a policy as to who takes that responsibility. So there have been, there's always little bits like that of things to learn, and also just how people, sometimes in Hong Kong, the AD was kind of a little bit of a different job than in the States. It was just it's just a different kind of personality. They had different a different style of ADing. But the bottom line is that no matter where I work, everybody's trying to make a good product, and so even if there is a language barrier, if there is something falls between the cracks, there's always somebody's always trying to step up to fix it. So that's the whole thing. The film business, the people in the film business, the crews are definitely not lazy. They work their asses off, and usually they want to do good work. So if there is a problem, there is a miscommunication, usually it's somebody's going to try to correct it as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. And now journeying into Trek. I know recently, you had an opportunity to, direct an episode for one of the upcoming seasons. So, are you able to? I'm sure there's parts of it, of course, that you're hush hush about, but maybe there are some things that you could share, about that experience of directing an episode of that show.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was I've been a big Star Trek fan and a Star Wars fan for many years, and it was kind of a dream of mine to be able to do one of these shows, and I got the call last year to do an episode of Strange New Worlds, and it's like this new Star Trek show, and it was the second season, and I did the third episode, and and it was just very much a dream come true for me. It was shooting in Toronto, so just the first days of prep, going to see the set, and just this, seeing the interior of the Enterprise and the bridge of the Enterprise. I mean, I never thought that I would, be able to, that I would be able to be working on a Star Trek show. Like when I was back in high school, watching the Star Trek reruns, I would basically, videotape on VHS. All the Star Treks would come on at 11 on channel 20, I think.
Young people, y'all don't know about VHS. I know we are both aging ourselves, but yeah, you guys are probably like, what is
exactly.
VHS?
yeah, like basically video, you have to videotape your shows, and that was, that was a crazy thing. I mean, that was an amazing ability to videotape your shows,
Yes.
So I would basically videotape, 5 episodes or 4 episodes of Star Trek. They would come on every night at 11, and then on Friday night, usually if I wasn't doing anything, that's what I would just watch the shows, So, the idea of me, watching these shows, and then, fast forward many years later, and I'm actually on a set. I'm actually on the, on the bridge of the Enterprise, and there's, characters like Pike and Spock and Uhura, who were some from the original show, and
of course,
it was crazy, man. It was like like a dream come true, and it was just especially the bridge. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, the set is like a spaceship. Like they spent a crazy amount of money on these sets, and you go, everything has LED walls, and there's it looks like a real ship. I mean, it's built really sturdy. Like they really built those sets to last many years. But it was just cool, man. Like I had one of the characters, Ortegas, who's she's the one that drives the ship. I'm not sure it's what Sulu used to do in the original. And there was one scene where she had to go to the into the the turbo lift, and she went in there, and she we were rehearsing, and she goes in and she stands there, and then the thing, the doors close, and we're like, all right, cut. And then we were like, all right, well, you have to go, and you have to operate the turbo lift, you got to grab the handle of thing, you have to say sick bay or wherever the hell you're going. And she didn't know that. And it was kind of a cool, because she had never had a scene where she was alone in the turbo lift. Like she didn't really connect the things. And it was just, it just kind of blew my mind that I was kind of, we were teaching, one of the major characters of this TV show how to operate the turbo lift, So, it's just, it's just cool moments like that throughout. And, getting to know the crew, the cast a little bit, and then working on the the interactive wall, what the hell do they call it? The volume, the thing they use, on Mandalorian, and
we're doing Star Trek shows, sure,
yeah, that was very cool. We did 3 days on that, and just having to kind of wrap your head around that, and like, the kind of the technical specifications and the limitations, and that was really exciting, and it was just fun, man.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you a question that I don't think, in the times that we've had you on here, that I have never asked. And so what I'll ask is, and it's not a, unusual one, but I'll ask it anyway, is, in working on all of these, different shows, have you had an opportunity to keep anything, or are there things that you normally keep? Like, I'm assuming like maybe you keep your director's chair maybe from working on the show, or maybe there have been things that you've been allowed to keep, or maybe there are things that you weren't and you took it. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's always something, that I usually try to take something, like something little or whatever, but it depends on the show. On like on Supernatural, became really good friends with Jerry Wanick, the production designer. So every show we would like do some kind of Blair Witch, tie-in to my episode. And usually, whenever I could, I would, whatever prop we were using. Like I remember the first episode we did, Ellie's Brew, I think, which is Ellie Kedward and they did these beer bottles. So he gave me a few, and then there was they did this big neon sign for one of the shows that I think that said Ed's Place or something. So he gave me Ed's Bar or something. He gave me that, and there was another one that said Rustin's Bar, which was this wooden thing that they hung in one of the bars. And so, that stuff. And then, so, and just little things like I remember like on Lucifer, I took some napkins and some, like drink holders, like, coasters from the club, Lucifer's club.
Nice.
So, I mean, it depends on the show. They give you stuff, or like sometimes like I did a episode of Charmed last year, and my episode had like this little puppet called Trunksy, like this little elephant that comes to life. So they gave me one of them at one of the Trunksies. And then, but yeah, usually what they sometimes they give you if it's personalized, because some shows will personalize the back of the director's chair and sometimes they won't. But if they personalize it, they usually give you that. They usually give it to you. So I have a few of those, but it's cool, man. I mean, I try to I have so much crap in my house that I try to limit the stuff that I'm bringing from sets. And then on Star Trek, like, you're not, I can't really take anything cool, like I'll get in trouble.
Of course, sure.
But there's always something, and also I have all the documentation. I have the script. I have like the diagrams and storyboards that I always get to take home. So maybe, one day, somebody can go through that stuff and check it out. But no, usually it's, it's just kind of like little things that I try to take just to kind of keep the memory of the show.
Cool. So I'm sure you know this is coming. I want to go over, some upcoming Slate stuff. And my first question is, because I'm trying to put it out into the universe for you, is where are we with Star Wars, man? Where are you directing Mandalorian or something? I'm trying to put it out in the universe for you.
I know, man. I know. Me too.
Or anything. I mean, it may not be Mandalorian, maybe something else, but at least
Yeah, no, I mean,
Star Wars
there's
universe.
there's a lot of Star Wars shows coming down.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'm hoping to get on eventually. Right now, there's a little bit of kind of a pause in work right now because of the I don't know if you heard about all the contracts are up in the next couple of months.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
In May and June or whatever. So I think everybody is like, there's a lot of people rushing to get things done before that. And I think a lot of things are kind of slowing down and not fully gearing up until that passes. So I haven't really heard much about any. I mean, there's a couple of jobs that I'm looking into right now.
Okay.
But no, nothing Star Wars related, unfortunately. But I mean, eventually they got to let me in, right?
Like I said, I'm trying to put out into the universe for you. I'm trying to wheel it into the universe for you.
I've been trying for many years, and a lot of people have been trying to kind of push the envelope for me there, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I just keep putting out the good energy, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then aside from that, of course there are other things going. We have Satanic Hispanic, so and a few other things. So are you able to discuss those other projects that are on the way that
Sure,
that are coming? So yeah.
Where we did a feature, an anthology called Satanic Hispanics that premiered at Fantastic Fest last year, and it's 5 films by 5 Hispanic directors, and it's fun. It's a fun movie. It has a lot of different kind of subgenres, and there's like a scary one. There are a couple of scary ones. One that's like really hardcore, kind of violent, and there's some funny ones, and gross ones. There's kind of like the runs the gamut of what horror can be. They're each about 20 minutes long, and it's a wild little ride, and it's supposedly getting a theatrical release at the end in September, I guess, for Spanish Heritage Month. That's very exciting. It was cool to work with so many cool filmmakers, and then we're doing I'm executive producing some movies that we're shooting in Frederick, where I live right now, and just little horror movies, like very, very inexpensive horror movies. The latest one is called Ghost Game, and it's being directed by Jill Garvasian, who did The Stylist. Really, really good filmmaker. And so we were really lucky to get her, and they start shooting. The second week starts tomorrow, and they've already got a week in the books. And
oh wow,
it's looking good so far. And then we have another one coming after that, and we've done 2. We've done the Jills will be the 3rd film that we've done. So we're just kind of doing this, like a little mini studio. We got lucky and found some people that were interested in kind of starting this thing with us. So we'll hope to do a few more films this year, and then just keep going. And our thing is to just try to find cool stories and cool filmmakers that maybe haven't had a chance to do features, or maybe they did a really good first feature and they haven't been able to come back with another one. And again, like, they're super low budget, so it's not like anybody's going to get rich off of these, but we do try to be fair. We try to give a little bit of back end to everybody, so that if the film does kind of succeed, everybody can kind of make a little money. But for us, it's just kind of trying to just get things going, give more work, have more work, local work, for film professionals in Maryland, the people we dig, and we got a good team, and so far so good.
And I'm sure to push things creatively as well. I suppose.
So what?
And I was going to say, I'm assuming to also be able to push things, creatively as well, because a lot of times that gives you a little more license.
Yeah, because absolutely. I mean, there's, definitely when you ask for a lot of money or, it's just a substantial amount of money, when you go to the
limits you a little bit.
There are certain rules, that I think kind of, there are some standards, some things that people are afraid of. And I think with this one, we're definitely making some cool films. And I'm not saying we're like pushing the boundaries of the art of, filmmaking, but, I think, maybe we will, I think little by little, by giving people like Jill, a chance to direct, and further her vision. I think that, we are doing something cool. And you never know, I mean, I think we can kind of, hopefully we'll start to be able to bring the budgets up a little bit more and get, give people more opportunities. But, for right now, it's just kind of a very small thing that we're pretty excited about, making these little films. And hopefully, one of them pops and gives us some more attention. But it's fun. It's been fun so far.
Awesome. Well, Ed, as always, man, I appreciate you squeezing in some time. Thanks so much for, hopping on and, talking about, what's going on in your world, of some of the cool things that you're doing. Trek, Star Wars, television, film, what have you, the gamut. So with that being said, before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
I'm on Twitter, Sanchez on the mic, and then on Facebook, Haxan Films, HAXAN Films. We have a group and pretty much, run all this stuff through there. I don't put that much stuff up online. It's just kind of more fun, but it definitely, I do put the stuff that we're involved in. And just people can contact me through there, or at least keep track of what I'm up to.
Cool. Well, as I said, yet again, I want to thank Ed Sanchez for hopping on this exclusive conversation, with him for Farpoint. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there. And as always, I will see you soon. Bye.